problem faced by many developers is that when you have characters in a game, controlled either by human or some sort of artificial intelligence, you need to communicate to the player what is happening at any point in time. It helps give your actions meaning as the player makes moves to complete a given task. Doesn't matter whether it's 2D or 3D, if it's a simple sprite or a more complex animation, players need to understand what's happening in the world, and this is even more relevant when we apply it to AI characters. I'm Tommy Thompson, this is Smoke and Mirrors. I want to talk about Inside and how it builds and maintains its unsettling tone through cleverly applied animation. Inside, released in 2016, is the second title by PlayDead, a Danish indie games team who shot to fame courtesy of their first release, Limbo. Both games create eerie and atmospheric environments within which to tell their stories. However, the visual fidelity is much richer in Inside, as players can now see much more of the world rather than solely through silhouettes and beams of light, and while the art style is just as ominous, it's the animations of the in-game characters that really sell it. Inside has a lot more living creatures within its world compared to Limbo. It has guards, dogs, zombified humans, long-haired scary mermaid people, as well as all sorts of mechanical devices. While the AI of each of the living enemies, the guards, dogs and mermaids, is relatively straightforward, the communication of their intent or their reaction to what the player is doing is exceptional. It sells their intentions at any point in time. It's readily apparent the mermaids seek to hunt you down and drown you, and that the dogs will tear you to pieces. In both cases, they're very fast-paced creatures, and the animation helps sell the ruthless aggression of the dogs and the manic scrambling intent of the mermaids. And very much in keeping with Limbo, if they actually get a hold of you, those deaths are uncomfortably gruesome in a manner that successfully avoids excessive gore, but clearly communicates your horrid fate. All of this is combined with the absence of animation, where if they don't immediately react, it reinforces the unease and disquiet in your brain as you travel through this weird dystopian environment. What's all the more impressive is how the player's animations occasionally change with the current tone of the game or the behaviour of the other characters. The animations of the boy shift depending on whether he's hiding or knows from context that he's exposed. Almost from the get-go, this is sold to the player in a way that heightens the experience. The boy huddles low in the opening 2 minutes as he navigates the forest, but the point where you cross the river and successfully avoid the dog that is scrambling towards you is the point it all comes together. The boy runs slightly faster, the dog is keeping pace, and there, right there, the boy turns his head to look back at the dog before the jump. This sequence quickly sells the peril that the boy has found himself in, the threat that the dogs present, and in amongst it all, quietly tutorializes that sometimes the player will need to make big, risky running jumps throughout the game. This sequence has been timed to perfection, where someone has tested it again and again to a point that it's just right. I tried playing around with it a bunch of times, and it relies so much on the player not stopping. Just keep running and hit that jump at the last second. And when you get it right, look how far apart the player is from being mauled by the dog. It's super tight. Sure, it might seem a tad unfair if you look at it more abstractly, but the animation immediately sells the intent of the AI character, the urgency with which the player needs to move, and effectively makes you take that gamble that you might not have thought to do if you looked at the cliff without a dog clipping at your heels. It's not the only time this happens, and as mentioned, the mermaids deliver a similar element of suspense and challenge, but I wanted to focus on this segment because it's in the opening 3 to 4 minutes of the game. After all, if you haven't played it, I don't want to spoil the rest of it for you. It's a solid reminder of the value and importance of well-crafted animations in a game. It takes the ambiguity out of so much of what is happening in these virtual worlds, as we very quickly interpret a character's reactions and responses to the world around them. And that's it for this one. Thanks for watching this episode of Smoke and Mirrors here on AI in Games. Let me know if you're liking this new approach, and don't forget you can watch these episodes early on Patreon and support AI in Games in the process. Have fun folks, I'll be back.